Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone here today.
What is this tea? Is it? Then it's
The girl who sees gods in the clouds and believes that she can walk on water. The young man poring over the lyrics to the song Jai Ho by Pussycat Dolls, believing that there are special messages within that only he can decode. The 40-year-old living in fear of the voices inside her head. And the 11-year-old with a knife pointed to her neck, ready to kill herself in the school surau. These are the untold stories of the men and women and children who work and live among us each day while battling invisible monsters. This is Gila, a journey through moods and madness. Now, mental illness is something we don't talk about very much in our country. It's something we tend to sweep under the rug. We want to pretend that it doesn't exist. But the sad truth is, it does. Here's the deal. The stats don't lie. 1.7% of adults have generalized anxiety disorders. 1.8% are depressed. Oh, sorry. This is going a little bit haywire. I'm sorry. I do apologize for the technical difficulties.
My name is Salina and I'm basically 40 years old.
I'm Tiara, I'm 30, and I'm here to help out Hanna Alkaf's documentary pitch about mental health in Malaysia.
When I was first diagnosed with my mental illness, basically I was experiencing a lot of depression. I was not performing well at my work. I was withdrawn from my friends.
For me, mental illness was like a trauma for me because the voices would tell me good things and bad things, but they are also like devils.
I think I first got an official diagnosis 5 or 6 years back. Because I think at that time I was experiencing a lot of lows and high, right? A friend actually suggested that I take medication for it. I remember at first I was a little bit offended by that suggestion. At that time, I myself has a certain stigma about mental illness. I thought that it does happen to some people. I admit it, but I don't think that's my problem. I don't think I have that problem.
After a string of mysterious panic attacks when I was around 16, 17, so my SPM year, we went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with panic disorder. Like, I was fine physically because that was the thing we were worried about, but I was diagnosed with panic disorder and depression. And the panic disorder was news to me because I'd never really heard of it before, but the depression wasn't news, really, because my entire schooling life, almost from like standard 3, 4 till SPM, Form 5, was just filled with a lot of racism, a lot of being ostracized, a lot of bullying from teachers and students alike. And I remember when I was 11, that was probably standard 5 was the worst year for me mental health wise. And I was just really bullied, really let down by both my teachers and my classmates. And I tried to kill myself at school in the surau. I had a pair of scissors. I had them towards my neck, and the only other person there was another classmate, one of my juniors, I think. And all she said was, if you kill yourself, you're going to hell.
Now, the previous slide, which I admit I accidentally clicked on a little too fast. Showed you some statistics, 1.7%, 1.8%. The final statistic actually said that 20% of kids between the age of 5 and 16 experience some sort of mental illness. That is a lot of people. 1.7, 1.8, this sounds small in numbers, but when you think about it, it's hundreds and thousands of people living among us every day with some sort of mental distress. That means it could be anyone you know. It could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be a sibling, it could be the makcik that sells you kueh in the canteen, it could be you, even. So if this is so pervasive, why aren't we talking about it? Let's see if any of these sound familiar to you. Don't tell anyone, it will embarrass the family. I can handle this by myself. Just think positive thoughts. Just stop overthinking. Everyone feels this way sometimes. Stop being so dramatic. Just snap out of it. What do you mean you're depressed? You've got nothing to be depressed about. It's like you aren't even trying to get better. I can't go to a psychiatrist. People will think I'm crazy. Now, let's just take an analogy. If one of you esteemed judges had a cold, for example, does anybody tell you, just snap out of it? It's all in your head. You can just cure this by yourself. You don't have to go to a doctor. People will think you're psycho for going to a doctor because you have a cold. No. So why do we treat those with mental illness differently? Because we do. In a survey on mental health knowledge on Malaysians that was published in 2009, most respondents said they were unable to correctly recognize and identify mental problems. They didn't understand the underlying causal factors of mental illness. They were fearful, actually scared of those that they thought had mental illness, and they had incorrect beliefs about how effective treatment options could be.
You know, when I got formally diagnosed, I was still dealing with a lot of panic attacks that come out of nowhere. I was trying to adjust to my medication. I mean, I had a really nice psychiatrist, which was really lucky of me, but, you know, I was still dealing with a lot of medical changes. And I would call my parents to come pick me up halfway through the school day, and my teachers would be like, oh, you're just making it up for attention. Oh, it's all in your head. Oh, why did, you know, I'm here with an MC, so why can't you just deal with it?
My family members are in denial that I have a mental illness. Some of them believe that I have a problem. Some of them believe that I don't have a problem because I act normal, but they don't see me in my house, how I cry every day, how I walk up and down, how I talk to myself, how I spend hours sleeping for days.
They seem to think that while I want to be normal and I want to be better, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, that I don't have an illness at all. I do have something that is wrong with me and I do need to be treated. But to totally say that it doesn't exist at all is something which I find very difficult to face.
I guess like the worst thing that has happened due to the stigma is when people keep telling me, when a few people, you know, like out of like good intention telling me that, you know, it is all in your head, it makes me even doubt myself on everything that I have experienced so far, whether it is just a fraud, you know, whether I'm just like making it up, right? I guess that's the worst thing, when you doubt your own struggles.
That's what we're doing to people, guys. We're making them doubt their own experiences and their own struggles. Now, the problem here is we cannot care until we empathize with something. And we cannot even begin to empathize until we understand what other people are going through. That's why it's time to spark that understanding, and it's time to start the conversation. This is my book. It's called Gila. It explores the landscape of mental illness in Malaysia by weaving together the personal narratives, expert advice, and resources from patients, caregivers, psychologists, psychiatrists, volunteers, and advocates. It weaves all that together into one narrative. It's published by Gerak Budaya and will be launching next week on the 14th of May, so I cannot actually speak about sales numbers and things like that. I know that's a question that will be asked, and I'm sorry I cannot provide that information yet. There are 14 chapters, each focusing on a different issue and a different protagonist. And while I don't want to toot my own horn, early insider reviews have called it brilliantly written, fascinating, and thought-provoking. To me, that makes it the ideal blueprint for a documentary series. What I'm proposing is 5 to 6 short films or documentaries, each based on a different protagonist and showcasing them living with their mental illness. The book is new and different in that it showcases a diversity of voices, people living with a variety of different disorders, their caregivers, people who love them and care for them, psychiatrists and psychologists, so the professionals, and volunteers and advocates who actually make sure that their rights are not trampled on. So it covers a wide range of ages, ethnicities, and backgrounds, as I think you could see from the videos. It also covers a diversity of issues. We talk about stigma, we talk about the cost of care, private versus public. We talk about the burden shouldered by caregivers. We talk about how to reconcile psychiatry and spirituality or religious values, which is something that's very important to Malaysians in particular. We talk about suicide, disaster psychiatry, psychiatric interventions that need to happen after there's a natural or man-made disaster. We talk about forensic psychiatry, legal insanity, how to be declared legally insane in Malaysia. And we talk about mental illness among the homeless, which is surprisingly pervasive. In Desa Bina Diri, which is the government shelters for the homeless, up to 35% of those who Desa Bina Diri takes in from the streets actually have a mental illness. That's a disproportionate number compared to what's actually, living among us. Now, the word reality used to have meaning, guys. It used to mean the real world. It used to mean truth. Now, if you say the word reality, I think it conjures up visions of Kardashians and clever girls, next top models and American idols, when the truth is that there's so much more to the world than that. The truth is that reality should pertain to people like Hafiz, who is 36 years old and has been living with bipolar disorder for the past 18 years, who has had to go through 12 to 16 rounds of electroconvulsive therapy, electric shocks to his brain, to rewire his brain, 12 to 16 times in 1 year just to make sure that he can function, yet has a steady job, an amazing wife, a newborn baby girl, and a 10-year-old son who can tell you the difference between real papa and sick papa. Reality should pertain to people like Tiara, who as a Malaysian-born Bangladeshi has dealt with institutionalized racism her whole life, and that led her to develop panic disorder and depression. Reality should pertain to people like Salina, who have just been diagnosed with their bipolar disorder 2 years ago at the age of 38, after she had already built a life for herself, yet has to relearn everything now that she has to deal with these new conditions in her head.
For me, it's important to share my story because I was bullied my whole life. So I want to tell other people out there that they're not alone.
We all share some a similar sort of like stories, and you are not alone, and they should know that, because like to feel alone is one of the most horrible feeling in the world.
Things like this, mental illness, you need support. You need people who actually care and want to do something to help you become better.
There's no systematic change in the way we do mental health here in Malaysia, and there really, really needs to be. Like both at the actual medical level, like getting more doctors in, getting more therapists out there, having healthcare be accessible so that people can afford therapy, but also destigmatizing it. Like, have it be normalized that people go to therapy, rather than being like, oh, what's wrong with you? Are you schizo? Are you crazy? Are you whatever slur you want to throw at people?
And also for people around them to know that to know that they can handle this better. Like people around them play a very, very important role. And not necessarily to solve the problem, but just to be there and listen. They don't have to do much. Most of the time, that is more than enough. Most of the time, just being around save lives.
It's time to bring reality back to reality TV. It's time to bring humanity back to reality TV. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Farah, Hanna, Alkaf, with the IP Gila. So for the judges' remarks, we will start first with Mr. Slayam from Kadokawa Gempak Stars.
Very good research. And I would like to know, apart from this, you are proposing a documentary for this project. Apart from this, what else do you have in plan for all this
Okay.
awareness?
The book is launching next month, so I'll talk about the book. It's just launching in a week, so I'm using that as a platform to raise awareness for the organizations who work on the forefront of mental illness. So it's not just a book launch. All these organizations, the Mentari Centers, which are community mental health clinics, the Malaysian Mental Health Association, and the Befrienders are all featured in the book in some way, and will all have booths there to be able to speak to people and tell them more about the work that they do. I'm also introducing art therapy and music therapy through some fun workshops. So it's not just a book launch, although I do hope people will buy the book, but it's more than that. It's about educating people on what options are out there for them and where they can actually receive the help that they need. So that's what I'm doing for the book. The organizations themselves have been very open to working with me and very kind to speak to me. For the documentaries, I was thinking of a series of short documentaries for television use, not necessarily for theaters, no, for cinemas, because the idea is to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible in Malaysia, because this is something we really need to raise awareness about. And to go alongside that, what I wanted to propose was a web series or a series of web extras. So for example, if we talk about Hafiz, who is 36 now and has managed to raise a beautiful family, but has lived with his bipolar disorder for the past 18 years, the documentary could feature him and his family going through, an average a week in the life, or however that goes. But the web extras could include things like, how do you talk to your child about having a mental illness? How do you explain to your child what that means for their father? Or in fact, it could be if Hafiz's child was willing to speak to the camera, speaking directly to other children, what can we do as the child of someone with living with bipolar disorder or any other kind of. So ideally what I want is to have a resource that is as widely accessible as possible to as many people in Malaysia as possible. Because mental illness is really one of those things that doesn't get as much attention as it should.
All right, thank you. Over to Elaine Logman from ETA Plus.
I'm just, because I don't know much about this topic, but just wondering whether is it just unique to Malaysia that we're lack of this ecosystem of support, and or is it just generally around the world? I just want to understand that
Sure.
first.
Around the world, mental illness is something that doesn't necessarily get as many people talking about it as diseases like cancer or diabetes or heart disease. There's still a lot of stigma around it, even anywhere you go, not just here. But here in particular, as in most cases, Malaysia tends to be a couple of steps behind the more developed countries when creating things like an ecosystem. The thing is, we do have a lot of things already in place. There are community mental health centers that people can just walk in and get a mental health screening if they need to, and then immediately get referrals to go to see a psychiatrist in a government hospital. The problem is people don't know. People don't know where they are. People don't know what they do. People don't know what they don't know. That's the thing. So they don't know what to look for. They don't know where to look for the help. So I'm under no illusions about the Malaysian reading public. I know a book can only get so far. And I think television and the web are really the way to go to really disseminate this information to as many people as possible. So that's why I took the opportunity to pitch this book, even though it's not technically out yet.
I'm just wondering, I mean, this is in the short term, you can access certain grants or funds, for this, probably a few series of the docudramas, right? But in the longer run, how do you see your business model would be like to, especially if, say, you want to do a continuous development of your web content. Say you have a YouTube channel on this, right? But you want to continuously add content to show,
add value, right?
yeah, the progress, the different techniques, that maybe people can even try it by themselves at home without going through therapy.
Right. Yep. That's a good question. I'll be honest and say I never thought of this book as a business model. It was a work of passion, really.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
It's work passion, but
So,
at the end of the day, it's got to be
of course,
sustainable.
Of course, I understand.
We all do something. It has to be sustainable.
Right.
If not, it doesn't make sense. I mean, yes, passion. Yes,
Yeah,
you must
I
do
know.
it because of passion. Yeah,
I know.
passion
I
without,
just,
yeah.
Yeah, I just meant that I may not have put as much thought into that part of it as you might like to hear. But at the moment, no, I've not really given a thought to sustainability beyond a certain point. And in fact, even this, in this case, I know what I don't know, which is that I know nothing about the film and TV industry, and I'm very open to being guided in that sense. Although I am very protective of my sources and one would like to make sure that they are respected and their stories are told in a way that preserves their dignity and their privacy.
I mean, yeah, I think that is not the issue. I think the issue here, the way I see it moving forward, because your intent is noble, because you want to send a message to the world, right, to highlight the issues and to educate people about this problem, right? But again, you want that messaging to continue, and it just doesn't stop there, right? So that's something to think about.
Thank you for pointing it out.
All right, thank you very much, Elaine. I'm moving over to Mr. Razin from Kota Buku.
Hello, Hanna.
Hello.
Okay, such a unique topic,
Thank you.
Gila. The thing is, like, how long have you, do you do the research on this one?
I spent the past year working on this book. Yeah, more than a year actually at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Did a lot of talking to psychiatrists, psychologists, finding people who were willing to share their stories with me, their caregivers and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, to Mr. Muhammad Zaki from Finas.
Hi Farah.
Hello.
So you buat ni in bahasa English kan?
The book is in English. Gerak Budaya is interested in translating it into bahasa, but we will get past this launch of the English version first and then think about it.
That's why the perkataan gila came in. Okay.
Yep.
What I can see, it would be proper and better if you can portray this as a product of documentary.
Yes.
Because it can never sustain as a feature film.
I agree.
Sebab it's about victims.
Yes.
Unfortunately, tak ada expertise yang giving their views.
I do have experts in the book who have given their view. I have interviewed a lot of
Okay.
experts. It's just that I had a week to prepare this, so I decided to concentrate on the personal stories of the patients. But there are actually a lot of expert views.
Okay, let's
in the
say
book.
this is a doku punya ni. We need expertise to give their views dan sebagainya. So it's good for you to look into certain issues and put it as highlights for the nation to watch and even to realize that, wow, it's 1.8 million people are getting into that madness. I hope I am not into the group as one of them. Kan?
As Alice in Wonderland says, we're all a little mad here, right?
Yeah. Okay. That Indian girl, dia sebut surau tu, is she
She's a Bangladeshi born in Malaysia.
I see, because I wonder kenapa dia sebut surau. Okay. It's a very kind of medical topic yang you have to be very much aware, careful, don't make mistake on facts, dan you have to protect your madness guy. Normally kalau TV program tu, we will put effect, we turn her face to the other side so that dia punya identity not to be known. This is normal.
Yep.
So on that matter, because you said you really love your stuff, now you have to leave to the people yang dalam production to put it on screen.
Yes.
They might be on your principle, but they might be against what you want
Right.
this thing to be highlighted.
Right.
Unless if you can really being so confident and you trust your substance and then you want it to be highlighted on this Gila issue, yes. If not, as a person yang dah lama dalam industri, I couldn't see how far this Gila topic can go. In fact, masa Majalah 3 dulu pun kita buat within half an hour and we are crammed into extending the issue. Dulu zaman-zaman Puan Zaleha. But not to worry, since you nak berkarya, kita expect that 14 chapters tu is either you put it into 13 episode of documentary on the same topic, which is quite difficult, or kalau you kata you nak letak kat web TV tu, you have to put it, shorter duration so that people will go for that, because normally kalau under web ataupun YouTube people won't watch that long kan. Tak ada religion solution on this madness punya problem.
There is a whole chapter devoted to religion, to psychiatry and spirituality.
Okay,
or
one of the
religion.
chapter.
Yes.
I hope you will take serious on that. Kan?
It is very serious.
Because sometimes
nothing in this book is taken lightly.
yes,
It's all serious.
because sometimes you are forgetting your gods, and then jiwa you tak tenang. Okay, that's why it's a test from God. So if you kembali kepada God, insyaAllah you will back to normal.
Inshallah,
Kan?
yes.
These are the things yang I think your intention, your noble intention, have to be look into the reality of the issue. And I've been meeting some anak Tan Sri politician yang facing this kind of problem. Normally they will talk to you, but they don't want to really put on camera. Kan, sedangkan dia punya
I will say that everybody that was featured in these videos gave me express permission to, because I asked first before I could use any of their stories in a pitch, and they willingly volunteered and took those videos for me. So that is the only reason I would have featured them. If they were not comfortable with being featured, I would not have allowed them to be.
Okay. If not, you're going to be saman for that, kan?
Correct.
And Finas also kena saman, kan?
Correct.
Correct.
Let's avoid kena saman.
Okay.
Everybody.
It's kind of new form. The book writer, they really love the subject to be put on screen, because lebih ramai orang akan menonton dan menyedari perkara itu. You are on that track, isn't it? Cumanya nanti you cannot be selfish to that. You have to really share within your teams. We hope that you punya research method you will come up into something, or kalau you nak put it subjectively, mesti ada reasoning for that. So that kita rakyat Malaysia mulai risau tentang gejala ini. Because it really harm our future generation.
Yep,
Thank you,
correct.
and tahniah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad Zaki. And finally to Mr. Sunny Boy from Astro.
Assalamualaikum Farah.
Waalaikumsalam.
Farah mesti pernah dengar buku diagnosis atau apokalips yang published by White Coat. Dia pun there's a fellowship of doctors Malaysian yang cerita pasal patient dia kan ya.
Yes.
So
Aku Nabi Isa, I think it's called.
So
by Dr. Rozan Nizam. He actually appears in the book.
okay. Diagnosis 2 dengan apokalips, dia punya approach ialah fictionalizing dia sikit. Memang saya nampak daripada exploitation of orang responden you tadi tu sebenarnya bagus untuk difictionkan. And bila buat filem ataupun drama TV, all this element of exaggeration is needed. Ataupun you jangan pergi ke daerah itu, you pergi ke daerah buat you punya dokumentari je lah. So dokumentari itu dengan macam mana Encik Zaki cakap tadi, penuh dengan research daripada pelbagai perspektif, pelbagai perspektif daripada medical sampai ke spiritual. Benda tu boleh buat lah. Interesting, but I'm not saying it can sell. I don't know. It will be interesting. Cuma saya nampak daripada perspektif telling a story, fictionalizing it, ataupun saya ambil contoh 1988 Levinson buat Rain Man, cerita pasal autism versus Tunku Mona tahun ni buat Reda yang menjerit-jerit tentang autism. Tak laku. Tapi bila dia buat Dustin Hoffman jadi genius dalam counting, itu sebenarnya autism juga. So depends daerah mana you nak pergi ni. Cuma dia sangat interesting kalau you decide to get them involved, exploit their stories, and see. Sebab saya rasa sangat interesting. Semua orang tadi tu yang you buat tu, dia orang ni sangat-sangat interesting.
They all have very specific stories and very
I'm
specific
saying
voices.
interesting to be exploited. So how you manage them, how you manage the story, get a proper writer, get a proper creator to visualize, to give you a proper vision, benda ni, it can work. Tapi tengok daerah mana you ambil lah. Adakah daerah shouting out autism like Tengku Mona ataupun daerah Levinson in 1988 when dia buat Rain Man. Tapi it has potential both in your documentary ataupun feature.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunny Boy from Astro, and thank you very much, Farah, Hanna, Alkaf with the IP Gila.